Okay, and welcome to the solving of algebraic equations. Today we are going to look at solving two-step equations by performing backtracking. So suppose you gave a friend $20 and you asked them to go and buy some ice creams. Now, a little later on they returned with 5 ice creams and they gave you $10 change. Now, your friend may wander off and then you sort of wonder, how much did each ice cream cost? Well, to actually solve this equation or this problem, you would actually be solving an algebraic equation. Now, it's fairly obvious to do that in your head, but we're going to look to do this mathematically. So this is the process you need to follow, and it's a process known as backtracking. Now, my equation could be, just the one with the ice cream, could be 5x plus 10. Now, that basically is my friend returned with 5 ice creams and $10 change. And that was equal to the total amount of money that I gave to my friend. So I could say 5x, now x is just the cost of one ice cream, plus 10, which was the change, equals 20. So if I consider this to be a story and it's all centered around x, I could say, well, I start with x, and then what do I do to x? Well, the first thing that I do to x is I multiply x by 5. And after I multiply x by 5, I will end up with 5x, and that is this part here of the equation. Now let's look at 5x. That's the next part of my story. Now, with 5x, what have I done? I have added 10. So you'll see here, I'm going to add 10. And what does all this become? 5x plus 10. So that's where my story is there. And I really can consider that to be the end of my story. Now I'm going to rewind my story by looking at the right-hand side of the bracket of the equal sign. So I could say that all equals 20. And now what I'm going to do is apply the inverse operation, or you might think of that as the opposite operation. So what would the opposite to be adding 10? Well, the inverse, or the opposite to adding 10, would be subtracting 10. So I would want to subtract 10 from 20. And what would I get for that? 10. So 20 minus 10 is 10. Now, look up here. I multiplied by 5. So the opposite to multiplying by 5 would be dividing by 5. So I would divide by 5, and then, so 10 divided by 5 equals 2. So I could say for this one, each ice cream would have cost $2. So let's just check here. 5 times 2 is 10, plus another 10 is 20. So you could say that I have solved that correctly. All right, I've got just another couple more that I'm going to go through. Let's look at this situation here where I have 8x minus 8 equals 20. Now, what am I trying to solve? Well, I'm trying to solve for x. And let's have a look at the story of x. The first thing I do to x is I multiply it by 8. And after I multiply x by 8, I obtain 8x. Now, what's the next thing that I do to 8x? I do this bit over here. So I subtract 4. And what will that give me? 8x minus 4. 8x minus 4. Now that I've finished my story, on the left-hand side of this equal sign, I work on the right-hand side. So I know that 8x minus 4 equals 20. So I need to basically go backwards from that. So the opposite to subtracting 4 would be adding 4. Now, when I add 4 to 20, I will get 24. Now, what's the opposite to multiplying by 8? That would be dividing by 8. So I divide by 8, and 24 divided by 8 equals 3. So I can say that x equals 3. Let's just check. 8 times 3 is 24. Subtracting 4 gives me 20. So I'm very comfortable that I've got that question right. I've solved that equation. Solve for the value of x. Now, one more that we're going to work our way through. Now this time we have 2x divided by 5. So what am I trying to solve for? I'm trying to solve for x. So, and what is the first thing that I do to x? The first thing I do to x is I multiply x by 2. And after I multiply x by 2, I end up with 2x. Now, let's have a look at 2x. What do I do to 2x? I will, look at that there, divide by 5. So it becomes divided by 5. So, and after I divide 2x by 5, I'll end up with 2x plus 5. And that is the end of the story on the left-hand side of the brackets, or left-hand side of the equal sign, I should say. So, what does all that equal? Well, it all equals 10. Now, what I need to do now is work my way backwards. So, I start with 10, and basically I need to look at this mathematically and look at the inverse operation. Now, the inverse operation to divide by 5 is multiply by 5. And 10 multiplied by 5 equals 50. Now that I have my 50, what's the next operation I need to perform on this 50? Well, I do the opposite, or the inverse, to multiply by 2. So, I will divide by 2. And 50 divided by 2 equals 25. So, the answer here, x equals 25. So just think, when we're looking at our story left to right, working out what operation happens after another, and then we go backwards, and when we go backwards we do the opposite operation each time. So until next time, just keep your feet on the ground and keep solving those algebraic equations.